It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today author Richard Pearse, who's come in to talk about his new book, which we're obviously selling here at the museum. Afternoon, Richard, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you ever so much for coming in. Very excited about your...
Thank you for asking me, and thank you, all you, for coming.
Good, well, can we find out a little bit more about you? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Born 1960, Doncaster, moved to Germany 63, moved back to England 74, had a strong German accent, fluked my way into Cambridge University. Fluked, yes, fluked. Fell in love with too many women. Fell in love with the Antarctic, but forgot about it because of all the women. Moved to Germany because of a woman. Came back to England because of a football club, Doncaster Rovers. Worked as an editor in various places. Fancied myself as a bit of a writer, but no one else agreed. So it's taken me 30 years to be on Nature Live. But they have the technology now which they didn't have 30 years ago, so that's why I waited, really. Is that enough?
That's concise and fabulous, yeah, thank you for that. Now, before...
A small rise in the featureless landscape. His eyes ached against the relentless white. No shadows on a dull day. A cairn off to the right of their route. He waved the rest of the party to a stop. 11 men in search of their missing leader and his 4 companions. The snow crunched under Wright's frozen boots. As he approached it, the hummock seemed to grow. He walked around it, recognized the sharp shape of a tent under the soft outline of winter's drift snow. He stood still, uncertain now what to do, but he was sure of what he had found. He started back to the others. He would have to tell them. Atkinson, now expedition leader, and Cherry Garrard approached him. The 3 men walked across to the mound, out of the wind. They brushed the snow from the top of the silent shape. Green canvas surfaced. By now the other men had approached, almost on tiptoes. They huddled together in front of Atkinson, shovels in hand. He spoke with difficulty. "We think this is the owner's tent, but it's too dark inside to see anything. I'd like you, and I know this isn't easy, I'd like you to dig it out, build a wall round it to keep the wind away." He looked at them. They were all tired, unshaven, and shaken. "Once we've cleared a lot of the snow, I'll go in. Then I'll call each one of you by name so you can come in and confirm what I've seen. Understood?" They nodded in unison. By now, some of them were crying. Their tears froze to their faces. Not one spoke. They began their work, created a circle of evenness around the tent. Atkinson crawled in, half light in there now, a frigid gloom. He saw only indistinct shapes and instinctively reached out. The canvas rustled. He needed more light. Slowly it came. 3 outlines of death, 2 closed sleeping bags, and 1 fearsome face. He would never get used to the nightmares, never forget the green light inside the tent and their yellow frost-bitten faces. He opened the 2 sleeping bags to reveal the bodies of Wilson and Bowers. They had slept themselves into death calmly, from what he could see, but the weather had carved mutilation into their faces. Scott had thrown his sleeping bag wide open at the moment of death, or so it seemed. His face was distorted by a grimace of pain and fear, the skin glassy and scarred across his starved cheeks. Like the other 2, he was frozen solid. I think that'll do.
Thank you.
They were 11 miles from the next big food depot. Okay, their bodies were in such a state that, for example, Scott would have had to have both his feet amputated because of frostbite. That it's desperately sad they didn't get back, but also how fortunate history or posterity has been that they actually found Scott's tent and with it the diaries and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, I'd gone to the Antarctic as well, could I write poetry? And I had gone out there with the intention of just writing a whole load of poetry. And then when I got back, some of the material and some of the stuff in my head was just too good to only, no disrespect to poetry, but too good to just have it as poems. I wanted to write it as a story for everyone. Because also, and this was one of the thoughts that was going through my head, again with no disrespect to anybody who might be listening or who I've met, the polar community can be quite insular, and they've sort of made Scott their own. And really, my view was that Scott belongs to the people, not just the people of England, not just the people of Europe, but to the whole world, because I mean, I think that's the legacy that his science and that his expedition have left behind. They haven't left just a legacy for the British people, but for the whole world.
Just let you know as well, we will run out of time in here at 1:15, but there is a table outside with books if you'd like to pick one up there as well.